Hi guys, in the interest of keeping you updated with everything that's going on, because at the moment all that's in the news is George H.W. Bush's funeral, Brexit, Mueller filings, and other things that aren't life or death, but there are serious situations unfolding while all of that is being covered by the mainstream media. So, NATO is accusing Russia of breaking the nuclear missile treaty, and because of that, the United States is threatening to withdraw from the INF treaty. Russia says if the United States withdraw from the INF, then Russia will also withdraw from the INF. Basically, the INF was created to put basically a cap on how much nuclear missiles these countries are producing, and also kind of stops them from producing land-based nuclear missiles, which according to the UN and, well, not UN, sorry, according to NATO and the United States, Russia is in breach of this agreement. So they've given Russia 60 days to basically come back into compliance with it, or the United States will leave and then Russia will leave, and then basically there's no more INF. So, as I said before, um, whether it's Trump's fault or not, during his administration, all of these alliances and all of these deals, these agreements that have been created to ensure stability, and has done for many years since World War II. Many of these pacts and agreements were created to stop another World War II. But now all of those pacts, all those pacts and agreements are being broken down. So you know, if they were created to stop another World War, and now they're all being broken down, the logic would be that another World War could then be possible, which is obviously the topic that we look at all the time. Russia is holding drills in the Black Sea region amid the Ukraine tension. So, as reported, Ukraine and Russia got into a little bit of a confrontation. I say a little bit of a confrontation. Russia shot at Ukrainian Navy men and commandeered 3 of their naval vessels, as well as imprisoning, or not imprisoning, but capturing 24 of Ukraine's sailors, which they have yet to release. And obviously, the international community is putting pressure on Russia to release the ships, to release the Navy personnel, and to cease in its aggressions. Russia has not yet complied, so the United States is sending a Navy ship to Russia's far east coast to the Black Sea, where Russia is currently doing its drill. So you can see that they're kind of beginning to facing off in the Black Sea over Ukraine. And I showed in the map, showed you guys the map before, of how it looks like one of the places of conflict is Ukraine and Poland, and it seems as if the NATO alliance, the Western forces, move to defend or to attack Russia, with Poland and Ukraine in the middle, and Russia coming from the other side. So it seems like those two countries are caught in the middle. It'd be wise, if you live in those countries, to pay very close attention to the things that are going on. You've already got martial law in Ukraine. You've already got the border closed to all Russian men between the ages of 18 and 60. So, it's pretty clear that at least the Ukrainian government believes that Russia is going to do something more. And there's been reports of Russia building up, tanks and forces along the border. So if you live in Ukraine, live in Poland, pay close attention to what's going on, and get out if necessary, as quickly as you can, of course. Over in Syria, Syria is raising the alert over Israel's Air Force activity along the Lebanese border. So apparently Israel started an operation to destroy Hezbollah's tunnels, but they are very close to the Lebanese border, and the worry is that Israel may invade or attack Lebanon again. So Hezbollah is warning Israel, if you dare attack Lebanon, you will regret it. And obviously, Israel's got a lot of things to consider. Hezbollah on one side, Hamas on the other side. You've got the situations in Syria with Iran, and then Iran directly. And then if things break down with Saudi Arabia, like it looks like it's going to, the United States senators have just agreed legislation to withdraw funding from the Saudi government for the Yemen war, which is obviously going to cause tensions between the Saudi government and United States government. I don't know how that's going to escalate and how quickly. But one of the potential scenarios I talked about in that situation is Saudi Arabia turning to Iran, and that would mean they'd be aligned with Syria, Turkey. I say they will switch at some point in the future. They will switch allegiances. So you'd have Turkey, Iran, Russia, Syria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, basically all the Muslim nations from one side finally aligned, which would fall into Rouhani's call for Muslims to unite. As I said before, that's the telling in the Quran of the Holy War. So if that happens, Israel, as I said, we reported this back, I think it was halfway through the year. Israel prepared already with the United States forces for an attack from all sides, and all sides would mean there'd be an attack from Saudi Arabia, and obviously the situations with Saudi Arabia, as I've said, could devolve into a situation where Saudi Arabia is no longer an ally of the West, and instead seeks comfort in the arms of Iran, which would give Israel a lot to think about in terms of who they're surrounded by. Obviously, the West and the United States would still support Israel, but the West as a whole and their support of Israel is shaky at best. They have many UN resolutions against Israel, which the United States is the only country really that seems to, constantly veto those. So you can't tell exactly how the Western alliance will react as a whole if something was to happen over in the Middle East with Israel. The story I've been talking about for the last year or so, waiting for this event where Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, and they keep saying that they only do that if the United States tries to, stop its exports of oil, which is obviously what the sanctions are about at the moment. There seems to be like a 6-month kind of waiver period that has been given to 8 different countries, and they appear to be Iran's most significant oil importers. But as we know, the EU is looking for ways to circumvent these sanctions with a financial system in Germany or France. The Chinese have already found a way, using the way that they did last time when sanctions were placed upon Iran, to circumvent the US dollar and trade in local currencies. So, the dollar's not really sitting very pretty. And obviously, I was going to leave this till the end, but considering I'm talking about it now, we've got the stock market plunging again, and obviously keeping our eyes on that because it tends to plunge and then stop and go back up and then plunge. But it's been a consistent downward trend. So even though the stock market has recovered in some places, it's then lost all of those gains. So at the moment, there's been no gains for 2018 and currently eating into the gains of 2017, which is obviously something investors are going to worry about. They may sell off even faster, which will obviously cause the stock market to plunge even faster. So keeping our eyes on that, particularly as we're, in this area of so much things going on. In response to obviously Iran threatening to block the Strait of Hormuz, the US is sending a naval group to the Persian Gulf. So they're not only sending one to the Black Sea to confront Russia, they're sending one. Well, they've already got plenty in the Persian Gulf, but they're sending another one over to the Persian Gulf after Iran tested missiles over there, and I reported on that. The intermediate range missiles that they tested could easily be used to hit countries like Qatar, but they wouldn't obviously be targeting Qatar itself. They'll be targeting the US bases in those countries: Qatar, Iraq, Syria, what have you. There's lots of US bases around Iran, and the missiles that they're testing could be used to hit those bases, along with the fact that we have this group who are, it's a dissident Iranian group. They basically are against the Iranian government, and they are saying that Iran is harboring secret uninspected military sites. So apparently this group is the one who first uncovered Iran's nuclear program in 2002, and it was from their reports that the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, I think it is, lost the acronym, but yeah, they then went in and obviously inspected what was going on, and that's how you know the world kind of found out about what Iran was doing, and then the nuclear deal came out of that in 2015, and then obviously 2 years later, 2 years later, 3 years later, no, 2 years later, it was ended. So they obviously have secret nuclear programs going on. As I said before a few times, I believe that they already have a nuclear weapon of some kind ready to go in case they are attacked. It's pretty clear that at least the Trump administration wants to attack Iran because they say that Iran has, you know, nuclear missiles, and I, for one, believe that Iran has nuclear missiles, but I feel that the rhetoric in going after them is fueling the need for nuclear missiles at the same time. It's the same situation with North Korea. So they started making nuclear weapons, you tell them not to, and you threaten war, which makes them think they definitely need nuclear weapons. So they continue, and it just becomes that spiraling chain of stupidness. But here we are. So it's possible that Iran has hidden nuclear sites that they haven't declared to the IAEA. And if this dissident group who first alerted the world to Iran's nuclear ambitions in the first place is correct again, then, we're in a situation where, as I reported, I think it was in the last video or the video before, Mike Pompeo saying that military options are on the table, and obviously with them sending an aircraft carrier over there to join the others that are over there, it's pretty clear that they are serious about doing something involving Iran. So keeping watch on that. At the same time as everything going on over in Iran and Ukraine and Syria, North Korea, apparently secret missile site revealed in new satellite images. And this is another one where you just don't believe that they've stopped developing nuclear weapons. They haven't declared that they've done so. So it's obviously clear that they're still continuing. And even though this isn't a nuclear site, it is long-range missiles, intermediate-range missiles that they're building and testing there, which is not a violation of the verbal agreement between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, but it does kind of, go against the spirit of the deal. So again, another situation where things could easily go back to bloody nose strike situation. Crazy. Canada is quietly preparing for a North Korean nuclear test. This is coming from internal memos that were gained through a FOIA request. Internal memos, or for the UK, that would be a data protection request. Internal memos show Canadian officials have been quietly preparing for the fallout from an atmospheric nuclear weapons test by North Korea, including the spread of radioactive debris across the Pacific and major public concerns that would rise. In the event of a test, Health Canada's Radiation Protection Bureau would monitor contamination, while various federal agencies would manage any dangers and ensure the public is kept informed. Scenarios mapped out by the Bureau suggest radiation levels would depend on the size and height of the detonation and weather patterns over the Pacific. And this goes back to an earlier interpretation from the IPEC Goat 2 video, where I believe that at some point there's going to be a nuclear weapon detonated in the Pacific, and that's going to affect the Kilauea volcano, and the Helena slump is going to slide into the ocean. It's going to generate that tsunami we've been talking about. Obviously, there'll be an earthquake involved at the same time, possibly magnitude 9 or above, and that tsunami would radiate out in the Pacific, also affecting the west coast of the United States. So, with Canada preparing for such an event, maybe not the whole Kilauea volcano Helena slump tsunami scenario, but they definitely are preparing for a North Korean nuclear test. And we know that the test that they wanted to do in the Pacific was the H-bomb. That's what Kim Jong-un and his regime said that they would do, and that was, I think, last year. They were saying that. That's before all the peace and safety talks. But again, biblically, sudden destruction would follow. So we're keeping an eye out for that. In terms of the IPEC Goat 2 video, I just want to quickly break down a few things that I've been thinking about recently. You've got 4 pins on the map, but you've got 3 pins that are close together and 1 pin separate. Down here, you've got 4 snowflakes, but you've got 3 flakes that are kind of similar in terms of laciness, and then you've got the 4th flake, which is kind of solid in the middle and bigger than the rest. So I'm thinking 3 and 1 or 1 and 3. So we've got the 13th coming up, but as I don't think the 13th is the day, but I'm just putting it out there because we've got this reference to 1 and 3. My interpretation is the 31st, and that's, attached to the last 2 videos that I've done as well. We looked at the 31st last year, wrong year, not the year of the dog. This is the year of the dog, 2018. So the last day of the year is the last possible interpretation for 2018. And I'm just going to point out a few things. So the pins on the map, 3 and 1, the snowflakes, 3 and 1. Over here on the house, we've often interpreted the flame over here to be either a Y or an M or even the number 2, and the little flame up here. I'm not going to bother zooming in, but we have a little gap just down here. If you want to watch the video and check it out yourself, you can, which kind of makes this an N, but at the same time, from a distance, you can't really tell that. So it's also a 1 over here. This is a 1, and this obviously looks like a 3. Going backwards, that would be 3, 1, 1, 2. If you're looking at it as 2 as an interpretation, which is obviously the 31st, 31/12, which would be the 31st of December. If you're looking at it as NY, 31st of December is New Year, so that could correspond in terms of what that could possibly represent. And I keep thinking that we often refer to this as the house on the chalkboard. And there's only one reference in real life I can think of that's referred to as the house, and that would be obviously the House, the Congress, where they meet and do legislature, which again brings my mind to 1/3, that reference to 1/3, because on the 3rd of January is when the new Congress takes its seat, and the new Congress is mostly Democratic. And when I think about that, it just makes me think of the scene in iPad Goat 2 video where we have the Antichrist coming up out of the ground and all those people in business suits seem to be erased. And if 1 and 3 doesn't reference the 31st of December and references the 3rd of January when the new Congress takes place, there's a possibility something could happen to the new Congress. I don't know, but business suits, briefcases, 1, 3, maybe there's something to watch there, and I'll be keeping an eye out. If the new year passes, I'll just keep an eye out for that one day on the 3rd from the references of 1 and 3, and we'll see if anything takes place. Hopefully not. Just going back to the 1/3 reference, we've got 3 hearts on the chalkboard, but we've obviously got 1 that is bigger than the rest. So again, we've got 3 and then the 1, 1/3 or 3/1, depending on how you want to look at it. Even when I was thinking about the letters on the chalkboard that are missing, A, B, C, and D, D is not really missing. It's over here. It's on the hat. A isn't referenced anywhere else. B isn't referenced anywhere else, and neither is C. So they've clearly put the D on the hat to reference a few things, but it could also be that we have 1 letter that's missing from the chalkboard, from the wall over here with the alphabet, and then we've got the other 3, so that would be 3 and 1, again 1/3. That reference is just coming up again as I'm looking throughout the video. The rocket or the penis on the chalkboard, again you can see the 1/3 pretty easily in there, so just going to move on very quickly. With the children in the classroom as well, there's 12 blue children and there's 1 girl, but if you think about it, it's 12 and then 13. So if that's backwards, the 13th would be the girl, and the girl is opposite of the boys, so that could mean you put the 13 backwards, 31, 12, just an interpretation, so don't get too mad at me. Inside the apple, you've got the reference to 2 and 1, or from Obama's perspective, 1, 2, but also 1 and 2 makes 3, and then you've got the 1 empty space, so you've got 1 and 2 being 12, then you've got the collective 3, and then you've got the 1, 12, 3, 1, December 31st. Again, just another possible interpretation. I've already pointed this one out before, but over here in the smoke or the clouds, you've got the number 31 just there, and this appears to be a reference to Iran coming out and blocking the Straits of Hormuz, which we're looking out for as a future event. Even again, in the eye of this character here, we've got the 3 bars, and then we've got just the solid, what could be interpreted as a 1 for the pupil. Obviously that's a snake's eye, but it's coming straight down as a 3-1 reference again, so just pointing that out. Last 2, I think, the last 2 or 3. Pointed this one out as well before. We've got 3 planes. They shoot out 1 missile, 3-1. That reference comes up again. So I'm just pointing out where the 3 1s are coming up and how that could possibly interpret as possible for the 13th of December, which is coming up shortly, or the 31st of December, which is the end of the month, end of the year, New Year's, and then obviously just the 1 reference from the business suit people, possibly connecting to the 3rd of January when the new Congress takes its place. Here, this has been pointed out already many times as well. The fireworks scene seems to have some connection to New Year's. We interpreted that last year. Again, that was wrong year. This year, we're looking out for it again. And as I said, finally, this is just the one that goes past the New Year, where it may be looking at the 3rd of January or sometime around then when the new Congress takes its place. I can't think of another scenario where there's a lot of kind of like business dressed people possibly having briefcases all in the same place, apart from like Wall Street. But we've already had a reference to the stock market in the boy's eyes earlier in the video, so this may be another reference to that, or it could possibly be a different reference, and that reference could possibly be in relation to the Congress. I'm just putting it out there. You guys, thank you for watching the video. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.